Are you overstimulated and overwhelmed? We're going to talk about parenting in the age of anxiety. I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach all over the world about parenting, good communication, how to build strong family bonds, all through the lens of the principle self-government. And anxiety is something I know about. In this video, we're going to talk about why we're overstimulated and overwhelmed in our current society so much. And then we're going to talk about some things that you can do in your parenting to help your children combat all of that stimulation and overwhelm. Have you noticed that we have normalized all of the constant stimulation, the noise, the chaos, the aggression, the stress? We've just decided that this is totally normal, that everybody should be facing this, that we all should rejoice in how much trauma we're having. In fact, everything nowadays points back to this idea that everybody experiences trauma and it needs to be taken into consideration. And so we are creating a society where we are breeding overwhelm, we're breeding stress, we're disempowering each other, we're not teaching the skills that people need to actually overcome these problems. Instead, we're just increasing anxiety. Everyone has anxiety. That's part of being a human. We all learn different ways to handle our anxiety. Some people have higher levels of anxiety based on their chemical levels in their brains and the way that they process, or the way that they have learned to process. And that's key, because anxiety can actually be learned. It actually, even though can be chemical, it can also just be behavioral. And we need to remember that. So what do we do to help a child who is feeling like it's just too much? Everything is too much. The first thing we don't do is we don't coddle. That's what's led to the problem in most circumstances. And I know that's hard to hear, but it's true. Our culture has become a coddling culture. We've created a lot of fragile young people and young adults that don't know how to handle their problems in life. That's actually a problem. So what do you do to help your child so that they don't fall into these same traps that everybody else around you is facing? How do you help them handle some of that overstimulation, that overwhelm, without coddling, but also showing you care? Is it possible? The answer is yes. So if you've already subscribed to this channel before, then you know that I teach all about self-government. Self-government means that you acknowledge you do have a choice. You examine what your choices are and you make a choice. The definition of self-government is being able to determine the cause and effect of any given situation and possessing a knowledge of your own behaviors so that you can control them. So that means a person understands cause and effect as it relates to their own choices, and they deliberately choose things that will lead them to greater success. So when we're talking about anxiety here, can we also bring in the idea of self-government? Yes. I love to look through the lens of self-government. I love to ask myself, what choice am I making that I'm not aware I'm making? Or what choice should I be making that I haven't thought of making before? Because truly, self-government is about making choices and deciding you're okay with your choices and that you are going to evaluate how it went and make new, better choices next time, if need be. So what type of choices do children really have? Let's talk about that. First, let's talk about some of the needs that children have. Children do have a need to have some mental white space or a break from things. In fact, it's not just children. We all need that. Whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, every person does better if they have some time when there's no noise, no lights, no sound, where they are just able to focus and think within their own heads, solve problems, rehash maybe how things went throughout the day, talk to other people, just be calm, maybe read a book. Everyone needs times of stillness. So creating a calm plan for your child could be a very productive thing to do. How do you create a calm plan? Well, you talk to your child. You have what I call a parent counseling session first. My TSG parenting course that you can find at teachingselfgovernment.com talks about how to have effective parent counseling sessions. A parent counseling session is a meeting where one parent has a meeting with their child, a one-on-one conversation about one issue. Only one issue. Don't talk about everything under the sun. So you would talk about feeling like things aren't okay or worrying about things, or you'd talk about anxiety and what it feels like and what you think when you're having these anxious thoughts or you're feeling like things aren't okay or aren't going to be okay. And then you would talk about, okay, so when we feel those things or think those thoughts, what can we do to challenge them? Could we ask ourselves, well, what else is true at this time? I mean, it may be true that I feel worried or I feel stressed, but what else is true? I could also choose to think something else right now. I could choose to say, I'm not going to entertain the idea of being worried and stressed. I'm going to have faith instead. I'm going to rely upon some skills that I already know, which would of course mean teaching skills ahead of time, and hopefully in your home you're doing that. This channel has lots of skills, so definitely go and find the skills that you need for yourself and for your children here on this channel. So you would create that type of a conversation, and then you would say, okay, so what is something I'm going to work for? What are some of the positive consequences maybe, or negative consequences that I'm going to put for myself? And the parent may be there to help, institute a little system or a program for the person so that they could acknowledge when they did do something right, when they did challenge their thoughts and come up with something else so that they didn't fall into the same anxious trap. Or if they were feeling overstimulated, maybe they could tell themselves just a simple truth. Truth is really powerful. Something like, I've been in busy rooms before. I've been with lots of people before and I was okay. I made it out okay. In fact, people are with other large groups of people all the time and they're okay. I can learn to be okay. I can tell myself this feels hard, but it won't feel hard forever because I just have to learn how to do this. Stress, overwhelm, overstimulation, all of these things that are usually examples of a person having higher levels of anxiety at that particular moment are things that don't have to stay constant forever. I had a conversation with a sweet young adult the other day who had severe anxiety to the point of like shaking a lot uncontrollably and then telling herself not to and those types of things. I mean, high levels of anxiety about a lot of things. And she said to me, Nicholeen, I have hope. I think I can do this. Should I just go immediately and start doing all the things that I never thought I could do? Should I just tell myself to do them? She felt empowered. We had conversation about what she could do in her own head and the conversations that she could have in her mind, and she decided to put it to the test, to try it. She wanted to conquer every anxiety that she had all in one shot. And I told her, I said, how about we start with one, and then let's move on to the next one, and then the next one. And she's like, okay, because I almost feel brave enough right now to do them all. I said, if you want to, you can. But when you fall a little bit and you have a moment where you struggle, just don't forget that you're taking on a bigger load, and that's okay. But you might have some moments where you fall off a little bit. And she's like, I actually feel like you've taught me that it's okay if that happens. It's just a no answer, and I'm going to pick myself up and do it again. I was so inspired. I was so proud of her. She learned the 4 basic skills of self-government, which are talked about in different videos and in my TSG parenting course. She learned that she had enough power on the inside to do something about her circumstance and that she could change the way she was thinking if she wanted to. She could plan it out, and she started doing it. I can't wait to see how far she goes. Your children could be no different. In fact, if you're watching this for your own sake, you could be no different too. You don't have to be anxious and overwhelmed or overstimulated anymore. You can learn what to do when those feelings come. You can tell yourself, wait, that's a lie. The truth is, I actually can be okay. And you can instruct yourself to move forward. It's empowering. Resiliency needs to be taught. Skills need to be learned. I highly recommend for your next video, you watch The Self-Government Way to Build Emotionally Resilient Kids. I'll see you there.